The only way to get here is by snowmobile or snowcat. We are at 5,000 feet in the alpine wilderness area of Washington State. This is High Camp for the Scottish Lakes Backcountry Ski Trails. Here, adventure seekers can ski, snowboard, or snowshoe miles of trails that wind their way through the forest.
One of the things that makes High Camp so attractive to so many people is we have a great variety of terrain here. We have over 20 miles of marked and very well maintained trails that are ideally suited for beginning skiers as well as intermediate skiers, and then they can lead the advanced, more serious steep and deep skiers into some even more rugged terrain. One other thing that we found is in the last couple of years we've started broadening our appeal. We get a lot of backcountry snowboarders up here now, as well as snowshoeing, which has become extremely popular around Scottish Lakes.
We're with a group of skiers from the Leavenworth and Wenatchee areas. Embarking on a day of backcountry skiing means spending a little time on the equipment and getting directions on where to go. Northwest Outdoors adventure host Sarah Myers explains how to apply a very necessary piece of equipment to aid in climbing mountain terrain.
I'm applying a climbing skin at this time to the base of my skis, and what this does is it allows me to climb uphill when I'm touring in the backcountry. A lot of skins are made out of a mohair. This is a synthetic fiber, and what it does is it has a smooth glide to it going one direction, but it catches in with friction going the other. That allows you to skin uphill, and the hairs of the fiber will grab so you don't slip back, but it also gives you a smooth enough surface that if you need to maybe kick, slide across a hill, or even ski downhill a little bit, it won't catch so that you have a smooth transition.
For our tour today, we're going to be going up on a classic McHugh Ridge loop. It's about a half-day tour. It's one of the most popular tours among backcountry telemark skiers and snowboarders who come to High Camp. We're going to be going up the High Country Trail. It's a very popular route with beginning skiers, families, and so forth. Lots and lots of scenery. We're going to be coming up to a point that we've long ago named Glacier Peak Viewpoint. When we get there, we hope that Glacier Peak, which I think is the 4th highest peak in the state, will be out for us. And from there, we're going to go a little bit further on that route, and then we're going to jump on what is in the summer a hiking trail. We call it the Ridgetop Trail, and it's going to take us on up through the trees primarily. We're going to gain up to 6,000 feet, so a net vertical gain of 1,000 feet. Once we get up to McHugh Ridge, we're going to ski kind of an open flat area there. We're going to get some dramatic views right away of the Chihuahua Mountains to the southwest. And then there's some open glade skiing up here that is intermediate, maybe a little bit steeper than intermediate sometimes. On a clear day, and I think we've got it today, you can look clear out and see the plateau of central Washington, east of Wenatchee. It's a real dramatic view. We'll get views of Big Jim Mountain to the south and Glacier Peak to the north, as well as many other surrounding mountains.
Not far up the trail is one of High Camp owner Don Hansen's favorite places to take a lunch break.
The nicest thing I think about Glacier Peak Viewpoint is it's accessible by everybody that comes to High Camp. We're less than a mile from the cabins and the lodge, and anybody can get up here on skinny skis, snowshoes, whatever, and enjoy the view. If you guys turn around and look to the west or the north-northwest, you can see a couple of real prominent peaks there. The one on the left was named McWaucum by Peg and Bill Stark, the founders of High Camp, and the other one off to the right is called Baldy. Baldy makes a great destination to the top for a full-day tour in the spring. A group of intermediate backcountry skiers can get from High Camp to the top of Baldy and back in about 8 hours max.
We just got done with lunch here at Glacier Peak Viewpoint, and now we're going to go over some of the equipment that we're using to do our tour today. I've got a basic cable system here. Allows you to hook the toe of your boot in, holds it pretty solid. Cable wraps around the heel of your boot, allowing you to have a free heel for climbing up steep hills. We also have a heel lift here that assists with the steeper hills. That way when you are descending down, you do drop into a teleturn, you're also free to alpine, free heel, free spirit. Our second system
Next we have a randonnée system, and with this system you have a pivoting heel piece so that you can have a free heel for climbing, for your ascending, and then you can pivot it back around and lock down your heel if you want to make alpine turns on the way down. This ski we have a true alpine binding, so you can just step in and lock down like you do for downhill skiing, and this piece clips right into your alpine binding and then has a free heel. This attaches onto your alpine boot so that you have a free heel for ascending and pops out for descending. It also has 2 elevators as well.
This is great skiing today. Yeah, this is really nice. It's going to be a little heavy, Cascade concrete as usual, but it'll be soft.
In the summertime, this area is accessible for the hiker when the wildflowers dot the landscape. The winter brings a different canvas. Hiking an additional 1,000 feet of elevation can be quite a workout, but the view from McHugh Ridge is definitely worth it.
The dominant peak over here to the south there is called Big Jim, and it's one of the landmarks of the area. It's on a direct line between us and Mount Stewart and the Enchantments. And then those are the Chewacca Mountains out there, and they are high and wild, as you can see. They go up over 8,000 feet, and there aren't really any trails that go over the top of them. There's the Dead Horse Pass, which is a kind of a route that mountain climbers or scramblers follow. But there's some nice trails that go all around the range and through the valleys.
After soaking in all the panoramic views at the top, anticipation sets in for the unlimited powder skiing below. But this day was going to be a little different. An overnight rain followed by freezing temperatures created a hard crust on the snow, making turning very difficult.
Here you can see some of the snow conditions that we are skiing today. Whoops. This is where the rain hit, made just a solid crust layer on top. Real hard to bust through. Little powdery underneath, but still just real tough skiing. Backcountry skiing can give you a lot of inconsistent snow patterns at times. You gotta be prepared to get down whatever you're going up. Oh. Step pretty tough. Woo!
With as many peaks as there are in the Northwest, there are that many areas to explore on backcountry skis. Scottish Lakes is one unique location that offers the comforts of home deep in the mountains.
I think one of the things that's most rewarding for our guests who come up here is It's really kind of an ultimate getaway. We're up here where there's no electricity, there's no easy contact with the outside world. It's time maybe to refocus on relationships or just being here in the beauty of the backcountry and getting some good recreation.
Adventurers of all ages can enjoy the backcountry from high camp. But with this rugged sport, safety becomes the primary concern. If you plan to explore the beauty of the backcountry, it's recommended to go with somebody familiar with the area. Dress warm and bring lots of water. And of course, you'll need a transceiver and avalanche gear all in a backpack for the unexpected conditions in the mountains. Even with the snow conditions not ideal for the day's ski down from McHugh Ridge, relaxing in the wood-burning hot tub is a must. From the School of Primitive Living Skills, here's an outdoor survival tip from Earthwalk Northwest.
Today I'd like to show you how to build a fire without using matches. If you ever get lost out in the woods and you need to stay dry, warm, or cook some food, this is a simple and very easy way to get a fire started. You'll want to start with a fire pit and a fire lay already set up. I have a teepee here with sticks. The parts of the bow and drill that we're going to be showing you is a bow, the spindle or the drill, a handhold, the fireboard with a notch cut in it to collect the coal, a tinder bundle to hold the coal and blow it into flames, and it's set into the opening of the teepee. What we want to start doing is we'll lay the fireboard on top of the tinder, and I'll pat it down. I'll take my drill and I want to wind it into the string or the cordage. It can be a shoelace or a strip of belt, and I will wind that in the cord so it's nice and tight and doesn't slip. I want to pick up the handhold. I'll put my foot onto the fireboard to hold it down while I crank with the bow and drill. I'll set the drill in the notch. My arm goes around the leg. I like to lock my wrist right into my shin so it doesn't wobble. I'll grab the back of the bow and I'll start spinning it back and forth. I want to use nice, smooth, even strokes. And I also like to keep the bow level and close to the ground. I'll start out slow and I'll start picking up speed as I go. Nice and smooth strokes. I'll pick the speed up and I'll start applying a slow, gradual pressure down with the handhold. And I'll keep this going. I like a nice, thick, billowing smoke coming from the drill and the fireboard. Once I get that thick billowing smoke, I'll go about a dozen strokes. Carefully take my foot off of the bow. I'll gently nudge that dust out of the notch. I want to be careful I don't smash it or break it. I gently pick up the tinder bundle and pull the edges up around it. Right now it's a lump of black dust or dark brown, and I gently blow it into a coal, and that coal will get bigger and bigger and hotter until it bursts the tinder bundle into flames. I'd make a nice fine breath that I'm blowing in there. If the wind is blowing, I like to have the wind at my back, so it's blowing into the tinder bundle also. Some good woods for bow and drill. Cottonwood is excellent. Willow, poplar, and cedar will work. I have my teepee already set up. Some safety tips for building your fire is you want to clear out the area that your fire pit's going to be in, so there's no flammable materials, any grasses or leaves or anything like that. Try to get down to the dirt so it won't spread. Watch the fire dangers. If it's very high in your area, you want to be very careful. Also make sure there's no overhanging branches up above you to catch on fire and spread the fire that way. We want to keep it nice and close and tight and safe at all times so it doesn't spread and start a forest fire. This has been an easy way to start a fire. It's a lot of fun and a good way to practice your primitive skills.
Try to bring as much of the sole of the shoe in contact with the rock as you can. Yeah.
My hurt you. You want me to sit back in it?
Yeah. See how well your shoes stick when you're walking down? There you go.
Rock climbing can be exciting, and there are many places in the Northwest to go rock climbing. We're in the Icicle Canyon area near Leavenworth, Washington. Join adventure host Sarah Myers and some climbing friends for a lesson in equipment and techniques for intermediate rock climbing.
Climbing is a team activity, and one of the ways we keep ourselves safe is we're always checking each other out and making sure that our knots are tied correctly and that our harnesses are closed correctly. So I always go through a buddy check whenever I go climbing. So I'm going to take a look at Sarah's harness and make sure that her harness is doubled back through at all the buckles. Her carabiner is locked, her locking carabiner, that her belay device is correctly threaded. Then she's going to look at my harness, make sure that my leg loops and my harness buckle are doubled back through in all locations, that my knot is tied correctly, and when we're satisfied that everything's all ready to go, then she's going to tell me that she's on belay.
On belay.
Hey.
You'll notice that Matt's reaching into his little bag on the back that contains some chalk that allows him to grip the rock, helps him climb just a little bit better. Fingers can get slippery up on the rocks if you're out in the sun. Now what technique are you using on the rock up there in that crack?
I'm using a jamming technique where I take my hands, put them into the crack, and twist them so they become larger and expand, and that allows me to climb when there aren't other features that are more obvious types of handholds.
Rock climbing isn't for the faint-hearted. If you have what it takes to both physically and mentally scale the mountain, here's how you can start learning the basics.
Okay. Dave's
Make sure and
using
choose
a
your
technique
instructor
called
carefully,
jamming here, where he's
because you'll
taking his
initially be
hand and
totally dependent on
twisting
his
it
or
into
her
the
skill.
crack.
If you go with a friend, be sure that that friend truly knows what he or she is talking about. Read about climbing before and after your initial experiences by reading all of the climbing how-to books that you can get your hands on. There is much to learn, and no single book has it all. Watch other climbers, beginners and experts, to see what you can learn from their actions. And ask questions. Ask other climbers why and how they do things when you see a technique you don't understand.
What he's doing here is pretty simple. He's just basically using the rope as a means of descent. He's got some nice sticky rock shoes on there, so they're gripping the rock pretty well, and he's leaning back against the rope here. So all right.
The Rat Creek and Classic Crack boulders are among numerous rock climbs that attract beginning and intermediate climbers to this area. This boulder is rated a 5/8, which is on the lower end of the difficulty scale, but a great rock to apply different techniques.
So Matt's now coming down the boulder on a top rope like we had it set up at the other rock, and if you could talk to us a little bit about the tools you're using for safety.
You bet. To make our way up a climb, a lot of times we're following a feature like a crack, and we need to be able to place things in the crack to be able to protect us in the event that we fall when we are lead climbing up a crack. And you can see the different tools that we use are many and varied. There's a lot of different types of what we call nuts and camming devices. I'll show you a couple of different things here. We have things like aluminum wedges that will slot into a crack. We put them into a little tapering spot in the crack, and they'll jam into there. Or the latest technology involves camming devices, which have a trigger. When the trigger's pulled, they get smaller, and then you let go of the trigger, and they get bigger. And the idea here is that you can place these into a crack, and that camming action holds them in. And so as we climb up the route, we can clip into these pieces of protection that we put in the rock. And we'll rely on all different shapes and styles to be able to get us up the wall.
Matt Ward has been climbing for over 30 years and currently guides for Mountain Madness out of Seattle.
We have classes that range from basic rock climbing classes, take anybody from a beginner climber to an expert level climber. We do glacier mountaineering courses and all sorts of classic climbs here in the Northwest. We also have a really strong international program. We do Kilimanjaro climbs, African safaris. We climb in peaks in the South America ranges and the Himalayas. So we go pretty much all over the world. Doug here is involved in our Seven Summits program and climbing the highest peak on each of the 7 continents, which will include peaks like Everest and Denali and Aconcagua. So he's got quite a journey cut out for him, and we're kind of starting with some of this right here on the Icicle Creek in Leavenworth.
Great.
The Seven Summits for me, how that came about was I lost my wife to breast cancer almost a year and a half ago, and it was kind of a promise to her before she passed that I would do something, number one, to keep her name alive, and number two, help other people, other women that are dealing with this disease. So initially I took her ashes after she passed at the top of Mount Rainier and spread her ashes on the summit, and at that time, dealing with the loss and the grief, I really didn't enjoy the experience of climbing very much. So as some time passed, I wanted to attempt climbing again to try to tie it all together. As I go after the 7 summits, raising money for breast cancer research. So what I've done is started a foundation under my wife's name, and hopefully raising some sponsorship money along the way, and spreading awareness of the disease, and hopefully raising enough money to help some women down the line.
Climbing's actually a very easy sport to learn and enjoy, and it's something you can really involve the family. And if you've got kids, you can bring them over here, do a little bit of rock climbing in the afternoon, go back to the campground, have a little barbecue, enjoy the river over here, the Icicle Creek, and kids take to climbing like ducks to water. It's something they've got a lot of natural and innate ability to do. As we grow older and become adults, we just kind of forget what we learned how to do when we were kids.
Go online to learn more about your Northwest Outdoors and this episode 1401, Backcountry Skiing and Rock Climbing. Click on www.northwestoutdoors.org.
Okay, we're up here at Glacier Peak Viewpoint, and we've got some of the different, okay. We're up here at Glacier Peak.
Funding of Northwest Outdoors is made possible in part by O'Loughlin Sports Shows. Puyallup, Portland, and the Redmond Sports Shows are proud supporters of public television throughout the Northwest, placing an emphasis on education for the great outdoors. By Kershaw Knives of Portland, Oregon. Makers of precision tools and cutlery, Kershaw Knives continues to support outdoor programming and outdoor activities throughout the Pacific Northwest.
Come on, baby. Let him run. Just let him go. Let him take whatever he wants.
On the next Northwest Outdoors, head to British Columbia to go salmon fishing.